Hey Tamoretsi, my name is Rob So Wide, coming straight out of Rustenburg, the 014 Platinum City. You are listening to Urban InfoPod, a podcast that is dedicated to provide you with relevant news, information, and discussing youth-related issue in open discussion that is more likely to aid you in your livelihood. Welcome, and of course, I guess I'm making my bro, J95.
Welcome to the Urban Info Podcast, episode number 4. My name is J95. What's good, Raps?
I'm awesome, J. What's up?
Easy, man. Now, let's get into this. Today's discussion is all about drawing the line between good and bad. I mean, good is that which is morally right, righteousness, right? Obvious. While bad is failing to conform to standards of moral virtue or acceptable conduct. Now, let me say that again. While bad is failing to conform to standards of moral virtue or acceptable conduct. Now, Rubs, where do we draw the line between good and bad? What's your take on this whole discussion?
Question is, man, what is good and what is bad?
Good question.
And then, is it a matter of perception or is there a really good or bad? Because here's the thing, man. One thing about life is that a lot of things that are happening right now. Firstly, let me take this situation of COVID-19 and whatever the thing that has been going on around the country. There was a point where selling alcohol was a good thing.
Yeah.
There was a point where drinking alcohol was a good thing. But now, under the COVID-19 regulation, is known to be a bad thing.
It's a bad thing.
You know, I read a quote last which hit me to a point where I say, okay, this really hit me to a point where I have to question everything about good and bad. You know, someone said, legal does not make it right, you know.
True.
There was a point whereby slavery was legal, you know. So I was like, okay, if slavery was legal at some point, and to whoever that was doing the slavery and everything, they were known to be a good people. The good people, they used to be the good citizen, you know. I'm not taking us back to the apartheid era, but I'm just saying, like, those are the kind of things that we have to question ourselves when it comes into good and bad. Is it what majority believe into, or is it really a bad thing or a good thing? Because if we don't know what a situation can be bad or can be good, or depending on majority, because sometimes there are certain things like collective ignorance, man. If we can say, this is blue, and this is red, and we all see that it's blue, and then maybe let's say it's me and you. We see that it's red.
Cool.
And like maybe thousands of people come and say, nah, this is red.
This is red.
So it's become a situation where we don't know what we start to even question ourselves too, even though we believe what it's red.
Yeah.
But we will reach a point where we question ourselves, wondering, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong.
And then you start to seeing it probably red because somehow you know how the mind can work.
Yeah.
So I don't know if good and bad do exist or is it a matter of thing? Because taking back to Joker, man.
Yeah.
I once watched...
Before you continue, let me interrupt you. Like you said, during this lockdown regulations, drinking alcohol and selling alcohol was a good thing. And then before lockdown and the pandemic regulations and all that stuff. And now, during lockdown regulations and the whole pandemic, selling alcohol is a bad thing. Opening up for business is a bad thing under certain lockdown levels and regulations. So now alcohol is open, right? It started yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And then one time I remember you said to me, before we started this whole thing, recording this, before we were discussing some of it, you said a motivational speaker will say to you, do what makes you happy, you know, and it could be the bad and it could be the good, right?
Yeah.
So now, opening up to sell alcohol, as we know it, is kind of like a bad thing. Because a lot of people will get infected. That means gatherings and all that stuff. Even though there's still regulations in place, So that's kind of a bad thing. But as soon as it was open, I was on WhatsApp going through my status posts and stuff from other people. Everybody was so excited and happy about alcohol being available for sale once again. So a bad thing was done, and then it made people happy, and it was a good thing for people. So what if it's all about good and bad coexisting?
Yeah. I think they have to exist. I think they have to exist all in order for us to live life. Because imagine if it was only bad things, life wouldn't be life, you know.
Yeah.
And bad thing, if it was only good thing, then life wouldn't be a bad thing. But at the end of the day, man, I don't think society should determine how bad it is, because like I said, I wanted to talk about Joker and how he was living his life. If you watched the movie Joker, I think it was 2020. Yeah,
but knowing the Joker, yeah, you know what kind of dude he is.
He was a guy who used to be something like a enemy of good things.
Yeah.
Whenever he see peace, he want to distract it.
Yeah.
You know, and he mentioned something like, everyone reach a point where they do whatever they do, which they feel good about. And I feel good about doing what I'm doing right now. So I don't know if whatever that we do or whatever that we might do, I think good and bad is just a matter of how you feel at the moment.
Perception, like you say.
It's just a matter of perception. But judging by society, society seems to be the upper hands in saying this is bad. Society is too quick to judge, you know.
Too quick to judge.
Like if we can make example, like someone come to you and say to you, borrow me money, you know, and you reject that and say, nah, I don't have money, and I will
just
never give you
straight
money.
up say no.
Yeah, straight up say no. And some people are listening next to you, and they will say,
"Ooh, he's harsh. He's a bad person.
He's a bad person."
Yeah.
And there comes someone who's addicted to drugs and everything. He's a junkie, and he said to you, "Give me 20 rand or give me 50 rand." You give it to that person. And the very same people who say to you, you are a bad person by saying no to that previous person who asked you some money, they will look at you and say, you know what? You don't have to give those kind of people money because it's like you encourage them to do whatever they do. Rather buy them bread but don't give them cash, you know. So it's hard for you to know what's right and what's wrong, because at the end of the day, they crucified you for saying no to that previous person. And then the other person come, you try to make them happy because it's all about them.
It's all about,
you feel
makes
bad.
it about them when it's really not about them.
Yeah, so you try to impress them by say, okay, man, take this money. And they look at you as a wrong person, as a person who do wrong by encouraging all those whatever that is going to do with that money. So the question is, should you ask a person who asks you money, what are you going to do with that? Because and the moment you start asking that question again, there'll come another person who will tell you, you don't have to ask a person that kind of things, because, I mean,
He's a druggie.
That might be confidential. No, if it's not a druggie coming to you and say, I want money, and you say, what are you going to do with them? Can I go to buy you a thing that you want? They'll look at you and say, man, certain things are confidential. You don't have to ask a person that question. But I think society is doing it all wrong
but in
by
that
judging.
situation, I think you have a right. I mean, they're asking you for help. Honestly, I mean, it's whether it's money or not, like whether they're specifically asking, can I have bread or can I have money?
But coming from a moral thing, whereby defining good and bad, it's all about people who are observing the situation at that moment. They are the people who can tell you that you are doing it good or you are doing it bad. So, what I want clarity from is knowing this thing. Or should we? Is it the best thing to ask a person, what are you going to do with that money? Or is it a bad thing to say? Or maybe it's the problem with society, because they say to that junkie, like, you don't have to give that people money. You have to ask them what they need. At least buy them food. That's what they see, and they see it to be a good thing.
Yeah. So when I'm already saying, get in the comment section and tell us if you think is it a good thing or is it a bad thing to ask someone when someone is asking you for money, is it a good or a bad thing to ask them what they're going to use that money for? I mean, honestly, personally, I think you have a right. It is not a bad thing. I mean, you're simply asking a question, you know. It's just like going to a doctor. How is the doctor going to help you if they don't know what the problem is, you know? And I mean, imagine this. When it comes to society. So, do we say the law is part of the society? It is not, right? It's a whole entity on its own.
I think it's a different story to me.
Yeah. So, there's a robbery at your house. I'm your next door neighbor or front opposite or just down the street. And then you catch this criminal in the act. They've somewhat cost you money. They broke a window. Maybe they stole your car radio, or to get what they needed, they had to break a door and stuff. So that results in you know, what is the word? Maintenance, you know, money. Like they stole and then they still destroyed. And then you catch them in the act, and then mob justice. The society gets involved. Yeah, he's a criminal.
Yeah, they decided to take law into their own action.
Say telling Dugu, man. and then you decide not to get involved, and you're like, why so called? He was just trying to, you know, so that he can buy from their kids. Maybe we know that person in the neighborhood, and we know that he's struggling. So when you saw what people always like, get a job, but then he has a criminal record. You know, it's always been like this. He steals so he can feed his family and stuff or not, you know. And then the law comes through, and then the law says you cannot take the matter into your own hands. This person is innocent until proven guilty.
That's the problem, man. That's the problem with everything at this moment. It's hard to define what's good and what's bad, because the very same society that can judge you for doing bad things, for saying you're doing the bad things, is the very same society that can do something like mob justice. So it's hard to know what's good and bad is. But what I can conclude it with, I think I can say to everyone, including listener, whatever you feel, whatever you won't regret after doing, I think it's a good thing, as long as you don't break the law. Because at the end of the day, we as a human being are somehow being differentiated from the animals, and by having some laws that we live in, even animals, I believe they have laws that they live with.
Yeah, animal instinct.
It's all about instinct and how they do things. But we as a human being don't do certain things, and because of the regulation and law. But whatever you feel like doing, as long as it doesn't break the law, as long as if it's your neighbor who have to say something about it, just do it. As long as it pleases you.
Yeah, that's how you draw the line between good and bad. As long as you can live with yourself after doing it, then it is what it is. I mean, as long as it didn't come like when that moment, we live in it's all about good and bad. Is all about what you do in that moment, you know, in that moment. So it could be a life-threatening situation. A husband beat her. One day he comes in and feels like, yes, today I'm on one. Today I'm taking her life. And the woman's like, you know what? I'm fed up, mind you. I'm fed up.
I'm going to stop this once and for all.
Man's got the woman pinned down on the floor. It could be the woman. You know, it could be the woman beating the woman, the man, and then one of you is pinned down on the floor. You're always getting beaten up by your partner, and then today you feel like this man is coming for my life. You can feel it inside of you, and then you see a knife close by, you grab it. In that moment, honestly, you aren't even thinking rationally. You aren't thinking too much. All you want to do is get away, run. So you grab a knife, you stab, you slit the throat or whatever. Because after that, you're gonna go to jail. I mean, okay, it's not up to me. The court is gonna decide. The judge is gonna decide, you know, whether you were innocent or not.
But society going to crucify you.
Society's gonna be there. They're gonna be out there. It's like, you know, they don't know the full story. So society is always playing the judge. This is a society, but it is that way. It's always that way. Someone is always going to say something, whether you do good, whether you do what they classify or define as good, or what they classify or define as bad. Someone's always going to say something. It is that way. You know, it's like I was asking Rabs, is it maybe about the good and bad coexisting? It is that way. But during this lockdown and pandemic in South Africa, the good has had the upper hand for quite some time now. Nothing good has come out of it. The pandemic on its own is sharp feeder. We somewhat do not have control over that as the masses. Whoever developed it knows. And I think I know who them people are, but we are past that. That was episode 1, intro of season 1. So a lot of bad stuff has happened. You know, money has gone missing. Politicians are always in scandals of chowing COVID relief fund and all that stuff.
And in their mind, they are doing the good thing.
You know, in their mind, they're doing a good thing. I mean,
or they wouldn't be doing it.
You could come up with, say, hey, let's use this money to develop something, the education system, the environments that we live in. They were like, nah, no, wait,
it's better off in my pocket.
You know, it's better off in my pocket. I'm doing something good. I'm feeding my family. So, like, I always consider politicians as gangsters in suits. No cap. So it's just like the next man who's doing bad for the greater good, like Robin Hood. You know, Robin Hood is an icon even still today. He used to do the bad, right? And give back to the poor, less fortunate. So, yeah, man.
So, my conclusion right now, Jay, is whatever it is that you want to do, which won't get you into something that you regret the following day, is good. And whatever it is that you are going to do and live to regret it is bad. So, whatever... I think it's best to you to do everything that you want to do as long as it doesn't incriminate you, it doesn't make you live in regret, then do it. Because at the end of the day, society is hard to please them and it will never be enough in the face of public and everything. So whatever it is that you have to do that won't make other people feel happy, as long as you know you are not breaking the law, because law is what we must abide on. So, yeah, I think that's the end of the discussion. Yeah, which was on how to draw a line between good and bad. And if you have something to say which can add value in what we were talking about, leave it in the comment section. My name is Rob Soldwide, and you are awesome. Jay?
Okay, now that is the end of the episode. Shout out to everyone supporting Urban InfoPod. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button and follow us on Instagram at UrbanInfoPod_, on Twitter at UInfoPod. Stream the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Anchor. We are also on SoundCloud as Urban InfoPod. Hey man, nobody is perfect. It's all about the yin and the yang coexisting. Just make sure when you make that choice in that moment, you can live with yourself. My name is J95 and I'm with Raps Worldwide. Peace out and carpe diem.